Welcome to the Editor's Podcast for the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. I am Dr. Linda Snetselaar, Editor-in-Chief of the Journal, and this podcast will focus on aspects related to the accepted article to be published in JAND in the February 2024 issue. The title of this article is Campus Food Pantry Use May Improve Daily Frequency of Fruit and Vegetable Intake Among California University Students Experiencing Food Insecurity. And with me today is Dr. Suzanna Martinez. She is an associate professor in the Life Course Division, Department of Epidemiology and Biostatistics at the University of California, San Francisco. Welcome.
Thank you, and thanks for the introduction. Yeah.
In the next few minutes, I will just be asking you a few questions to highlight your article. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts related to food insecurity in the college student population. So my first question is, how long have researchers and universities been tracking food insecurity in the population, specifically of university students? And when did food security become an issue in this population?
Very good question. And yeah, we've always heard the story of the starving student, but it really was, there was a first study that was published in 2009. The study was actually conducted in 2006 at the University of Hawaii. And before that paper, we didn't really talk about food insecurity among college students. And so that paper was published in 2009, and they found that 21% of students were experiencing food insecurity in one of their universities in the state of Hawaii. That paper also coincided with the economic downturn of the Great Recession. And this was a really defining moment, I think, for food insecurity among college students, because that's when the stories of the struggling student started to become very familiar. By 2016, there were about 17 published studies, and by 2018, there were about 10 more. But the study that really put food insecurity among college students on the map and kind of validated the issue was the U.S. Government Accountability Office report. And the title of that report is Food Insecurity: Better Information Could Help Eligible College Students Access Federal Food Assistance Benefits. And what the study found was that of 3.3 million students who were potentially eligible for federal food assistance in 2016, less than half of them reported participating in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And then what the study also found was that there was limited data across the nation in terms of really establishing what food insecurity looked like in the student population. But they estimated that anywhere that, well, I'll say that they said more than 30% of the student population was experiencing food insecurity, and anywhere as high as 50%. So that study is what really validated all of the studies up until that time. And there were also several reviews that were coming out around that time showing that food insecurity really was around 40% in the student population, which is about 3 times higher than the US adult household population. What our research and others have also reported is even higher proportions among students who are the first in their families to attend college, as well as lower income students, particularly students who receive the federal Pell Grant, and students who identify as Black and Latino, as well as students who identify as LGBTQ+. And the numbers are even higher when you're at more than one of these intersections. So yeah, and then in the UC student population, we've been tracking food insecurity every 2 years since our very first report in 2015, and UC being the University of California system.
Such interesting data and so important to this issue. Thank you. What does data from your study in the article that I just mentioned show in relationship to food and vegetable consumption among students who use food pantries?
Yeah, so we conducted a survey of among approximately 1,200 students who access their campus food pantry across the 10 campus University of California system. So if for those who are not familiar, we have 10 campuses across the University of California. Each has established a food pantry. And so it was those students who visit the food pantry that we sent a survey out to in 2019. And it was important to note that all of the students who go to the food pantry aren't necessarily food insecure. We have a lot of students who go to the pantry. They use it as a resource to buffer from becoming food insecure. And then we have the students who obviously are in need and do use it to help with their food situation. So in this study, we found that students experiencing food insecurity had 3 times lower frequency of fruit and vegetable intake over the course of a week compared to the students who were food secure. And then on top of that, we also found that daily frequency of fruit and vegetable intake was a function of the number of visits that the student visited the campus food pantry among those with food insecurity. So in other words, more monthly visits to the pantry was associated with a higher daily frequency of total fruit and vegetable intake, and that mainly coming from whole fruits, 100% fruit juice, and leafy green intake. And these findings were significant even after controlling for factors such as sex and race and ethnicity and age and campus affiliation.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the research you've done. I think it's so illuminating to know more about what happens on college campuses. And it sounds as though food pantries may be even a way of preventing some of the certainly types of things that go on with food insecurity. Next question, what are some of the novel strategies that food pantries can use to increase fruit and vegetable consumption among students frequenting those spaces?
Yeah, that's a really great question. One of the early strategies that we've done in the UC system is partner with local programs such as the local food bank. We have several campuses that are also in agricultural areas, so they also partner with local farmers, local growers to bring produce to their campus pantries. Fortunately for some of our campuses, we also have campus farms. And so we have students growing the food and then bringing that food to the pantry. Other models that we have include UC Santa Barbara, which has an edible campus, which uses underutilized spaces for gardens and orchards. And so students are able to access those resources as well. And then something that's pretty new, it was launched in November, is UC Irvine just launched a mobile food pantry to increase access for students who might not otherwise visit the pantry just because of geographic location. Students tend to hang out in certain areas, especially graduate students might just hang out in those areas where they're doing their graduate studies. And so not all students have the time to go to the food pantry because they're not always in very accessible places. So this new mobile food pantry is something that's new, and we're really excited to see how that works out. Other novel strategies, I think, include just skill building, learning how to prep and cook easy recipes, and teaching students how to cook on a shoestring budget, if you will. And other areas that we haven't explored, but I think that would be worth exploring, are just using behavioral economics, such as nudges, to get students to come into the food pantry or to promote fruit and vegetable intake. And I think in all of this work, it's really important to reduce stigma and try to find ways to be intentional about creating a really welcoming and visible space for students so that they have a place to hang out and create a sense of community. So, yeah.
Terrific. I think those novel strategies are incredibly important as we look at particularly how students in universities use the food pantries. So very, very interesting. How might a registered dietitian nutritionist use information from your study to inform better nutrition for students who frequent food pantries?
Yeah, that's a really great great question. And one of the things that we've done on some of the campuses, and I'm not quite sure if it's all the campuses, but I think a way that dietitians can help is just partnering with their campus food pantry, providing nutritional expertise on what food should be stocked in the pantries, to ensure that students have healthy food options, right? I think that's a really important thing, and I know that's been successful on some of our campuses. In addition, I think just providing nutritional counseling and skills and education. I mentioned earlier the cooking and skill building. I think those are ways that professionals can help in terms of promoting healthy eating and fruit and vegetable consumption in these food pantry settings.
Okay, thank you so much. I know that the information you just gave us will be very helpful to RDNs who are working in these settings that involve food pantries. And just finally, I think this topic is so important as we look at food insecurity in college students. And I know that this is an ever-growing concern on college campuses, particularly here at the University of Iowa as well. And thank you so much for responding to my questions. And I appreciate your time in participating in this podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, really appreciate this as well. Thank you so much.